Hey, what's up everybody? It's Lids, and we're back for some more Mardek, and as we were saying in the previous episode, we now have the pathway complete to this dramatic looking door over here. So we're definitely going to take a look at what's on the other side of that door in just a minute. However, first, I want to make sure we make the point of picking up all the chests in this area, because there's one in particular that I'm pretty sure we had to skip, mostly because, well, I had my head down, focusing on the switches and getting all that stuff right so that we could make our way through that area. However, you'll see here we're on only 4 out of 5 chests, and I believe the last one is, well, based on how there's one grayed out area over here, presumably somewhere in the top right corner. However, at the moment we're blocked by this dark blue switch, so let's make a point of flipping that switch, getting over to that chest, and then we'll make our way back across this bridge that we've created and see what's on that other side. So, let's head on back in this direction. I believe is the easiest way to get to a blue switch. Yeah. We'll head over here. And of course, we'll have to go back here in order to unflip said switch in order to recreate the bridge that we were focusing on creating earlier. On our way, some water elementals and an axolotl chief. Okay, that shouldn't be too tough here. What with the gem explosion, except who do we target with it is the thing. The chiefs, no big weakness. Whereas water elementals do have some of that, so yeah, it probably makes more sense to target a water elemental. Maybe even one with more HP. Definitely. Then Meridor, Gasomatic. Simple, but effective. And then Gloria. She's so close to mastering Whirlpool, I'm tempted to just make a point of doing it right now, even if all these guys are quite resistant or outright healed to it. The Axolotl Chief does at least take some damage to it, so let's do it. Because now, she is done with it. Does, of course, mean that, yes, the Axolotl Chief will have the chance to take a turn, as will the Water Elemental, but given how we have so many people who are so resistant to water, that's not really the end of the world. Mardek, however, you could probably, well, can you take out a Water Elemental in one hit here? You might be able to. Not quite, actually, so we'll get a reaction in. But again, it actually heals him, so it's pretty fine. And then Legion, get rid of it this way. Meridor can continue to deal a little bit of damage to it this way. And then Gloria, it is already poisoned, so you don't necessarily need to take it out. But as long as you deal enough damage, but when you're only targeting one, it should be fine. Great. So there we see that Gloria has now mastered Whirlpool, and that is significant, because now I believe we will find that if we go to our inventory, we could potentially swap off the Trilobite Staff, because this has Whirlpool, and also Null Water Once as one of those abilities on it. So if we got rid of this, then we would, of course, no longer be able to learn, say, Null Water Once. However, remember that we still have the Sapphire Pangle, which does also have that exact same skill, so we can still learn it that way. So no problem there. Allows us to put on the Air Staff, which will give Gloria access to the Twister ability, as well as Null Air Once. So we were talking earlier about how that was so critical for Charlotte to have that skill, for Gloria to be able to use it as well. Might be even more useful because she has Null Water and Null Earth as well, so she can be our super Null character. Great. So let's move on, and we'll hit this switch here. That's the one that we were looking for. And now, we should be able to head over through the pathway that was blocked previously. So we'll just head on over to the other room. And unless my calculations are wrong, we should be fine here, because yeah, previously there was a wall here. There is no more, and therefore we should be able to head up. And yeah, we should have done this earlier when we had already not had this this switch active, or I guess had this switch active, and therefore would have been able to make it through here. This is the chest in question. It's off in the corner. It looks awfully dramatic. I don't know. I'm thinking this is probably a fight. And it is. Lots of water elementals. Okay. So we can gem explosion one of them into non-existence. Take your pick a switch. They're all the same level. I don't know. Let's go for this one. Seems to have worked. Gasomatic. Hit them all. Reasonable amount of damage. Except they do get to go next. And as long as we hit our reactions well, most people won't take any damage. Meridor actually does not have 100% water resistance. I did not realize that. However, it's because although Meridor is wearing a water pendant, which is 50% resistance, and gives the water resistance reaction, which is another 50% resistance, because he is fire elemental, that means that he would normally have 20% water weakness, and therefore he's only on net 80% resistant to those water spells. That's why he took a little bit of damage there. So Gloria, we could go with, say, a Razor Leaf, which would of course be the most effective option, assuming that these guys are most weak to Earth. However, we could also consider trying a Twister, which is of course the new skill that we just picked up with the new staff. Likewise, Null Air Once is also new, however, I mean, let's maybe just keep things simple here. Go with what works. Take these guys out. Might have still have enough damage to have done it with air, but we'll stick to just the Earth stuff here. And Fish Slayer is the reward. It's not just a random drop that happened to trigger this time around. No, it was guaranteed to happen. It's just that this particular chest was guarded by those enemies. So what exactly is this thing, though? Let's maybe take a closer look. So, it is a weapon? 37 attack is actually pretty darn high. That might be the highest we have thus far. Next closest is probably, yeah, the Aeropolitan Scimitar, and that's only 36, so it's slightly better than that. A semi-legendary sword. Okay, apparently made from some kind of magically stunned fish with skin like steel razors. How eccentric. It would be strong against fish-type creatures, except that that'd be pointless because they usually absorb water. Eh? Just because it intimidates them all? What with the whole stunned fish thing? So it gives a water slash ability, which is, based on that indication there, actually a Mardek ability. And we've been talking about trying to swap off Mardek's sword. He's been using the champion sword for a long time. We probably should make a point of doing that now. And then it is effective against fire. It is water elemental, so that maybe makes sense as to why it wouldn't be terribly effective against fish. Also gives +1 spirit, which is not something that we oftentimes find Mardek finding easy to pick up. He's typically more of the strength-based character, what with his physical attacks. But remember, healing is also based on how much spirit a character has, and therefore +1 spirit is actually quite significant for that reason. We could equip this, however, it is, as we see here, water elemental, and in the water temple, that's probably not the best idea to use it right now. But I think it's probably a good time, and we probably should have done this earlier, to put on the Aeropolitan Scimitar. We had Vern using this previously, mostly just for the damage, but this also has an ability for Mardek. It is Air Slash. So let's throw it on there. And we can even take a look at what that ability is. It magically enchants your sword to inflict air elemental damage. So it's actually a purely offensive skill on Mardek, which is a first for us. All these other things have been healing or other support-related skills, so that'll be a notable pickup. Of course, Mardek has become, ever since really the beginning of Chapter 3, much more of an offensive force in the party, rather than more so the pure support character or close to it that he was in Chapter 2, so this will be an interesting addition. So let's head on back now, and remember, we will likely need to reflip that dark blue switch that we flipped in order to make it over here. Okay, lots of axolotls, and I'm curious as to whether they have any air weakness or resistance. The normal axolotls do, so that does mean that this might even be an opportunity for Mardek to use one of those new skills. So we can Gem Explosion, yes, and maybe we do that on the Chief, because that one is not weak to air. And then Meridor will still Gasomatic. Some things never change. The Chief, almost down, but the poison does not quite deal enough damage. The normal axolotls, well, the poison is helpful at the very least. Ooh, not great when you attack Meridor, though. He definitely could use a heal. Gloria, again, it would theoretically be kind of nice to say find an opportunity to use a Twister, and let's give it a shot, just to see what it's all about. I think the Axolotl Chief will probably still go down. The normal Axolotls, we'll find another way to get rid of them before their next turn. Okay, and we're talking somewhere in the 100 to actually 366 damage range. No one is down. The Axolotl Chief I mean, so low that the poison will almost certainly take him out. Mardek, we should heal, yes, but also gotta try out the air slash, right? So we were saying it's the normal axolotls that we should target? Yeah. Let's go for the one with the most HP here, and I would assume this is probably enough damage to take it out, but we'll have to see. Absolutely, in fact. And that is enough for Gloria to level up, so that's good to see as well. Okay, the Gem Explosion. Let's take out this axolotl here, because like we were saying, the axolotl chief is likely done for. And Meridor, I mean, could make this a sure thing. Okay, and, well, we get a Bone Axe as well. And we actually get a few skills mastered, too. So those are all offensive reactions. Let's take another look at where exactly they're coming from. So for Legion, it's coming from his helmet. He just mastered the plus 10% magic damage from Meridor's helmet. And then I think Meridor was the other person who mastered one. And it's the plus 20% magic damage from Gloria's helmet. So we might want to do a little bit of a switcheroo in a little bit here, in order to allow these guys to learn the other person's skills. However, Legion does still have 8 uses before he's mastered plus 50% accuracy, and so that might be reason to hold off. Oh, except Legion can also learn that skill from his existing claws, so in that case, no reason not to swap right now. Let's just make a point of equipping the skills too. So yeah, Legion, plenty RP to make that happen. Meridor, you do have less RP, but still more than enough. So nice, that'll improve their damage. And we'll head on back. And probably worth making it to the save crystal, so that Meridor is not on death's door. And like I was saying, we'll just switch that blue switch one more time. And then we'll head on through the other door and see what it's all about. Angry Cogs, they are quick. And that would have been one of the skills that I believe Legion can learn, however, it's already happened. They are targeting Legion, no less. Gasomatic, not sure if the damage boost is going to be big enough for us to tell the difference here. But theoretically, that should be roughly 10% higher than what we were seeing before with the new reaction. Similar stuff with Gem Explosion. I think Legion's is actually 20% damage. So we'll attack the one with the most HP, I would think. Still not quite enough to take it out, but the poison will bring him close. Twister, could we use one of these? They're actually, wow, just as weak to air as they are to earth. So in that case, sure. Actually, no reason not to use Twister here, especially since that's something that Gloria is looking to master. Lowers their agility, what with that being the attribute that is typically associated with air. And Mardek, I suppose, same reason for you to continue to use your air slash ability. And it hits hard. It works. Oh, another thing we should check is Gloria and I believe that was just Meridor there, have both leveled recently and therefore may have more RP to use that we were not previously using. However, Gloria is still pretty light on skills. Whoa! However, on the passive side, we apparently did not have Rainbow Aura active and probably could have had this mastered at this rate, I would think. 2 RP remaining, so we could theoretically do something like throw on a +1 attribute of some variety. However, I'm not sure she has another miscellaneous spot to make that happen, so we could double check, but I think for the moment, that's certainly a big one to add. As for Meridor, you may or may not have gained an additional RP yourself with that level. Still a ways away from being able to use Spell Resist 2. And similar story on the passive side, if we were able to throw on an attribute, then we could make that happen. For Gloria, if we were willing to get rid of the Water Pendant, then we could make that happen. Likewise for Meridor. Meridor has not mastered that skill yet, whereas Gloria has. And Gloria does already have the Sapphire Bangle for 50% water resistance there, so in fact, add the Lesser Rainbow Shirt and the Rainbow Aura skill on top of that, and she has a ton of water resistance here. So we probably could swap this out and throw on, I don't know if we have any on hand, but say, Fire Opal's +1 strength, which is probably not the most relevant for Gloria specifically. +1 agility, maybe a little bit more so? Sure, we'll throw this on. +1 spirit would likely be the best for her, what with her being, of course, primarily a spellcaster, but making it so that she goes a little bit earlier in combat is also not a terrible idea. So there we go. We flipped this. Now we should be able to make it back through that door. And if we were to guess, based on what we've seen in other areas, I mean, think back to the other temple we've been through, of course, the Dark Temple, and we went through similar things in that we had a bunch of side areas, much like we had here, and then ultimately we had a big bad door in the middle where we found, I believe, a mini-boss, followed by Solar, followed by the Mysterious Man, and that was certainly a difficult boss fight, so I don't know. I think we probably want to be expecting the worst here. So let's save real quick. And I think we should probably prepare ourselves for a big fight. So, if we are going into a fight against, presumably, a powerful water enemy, then why don't we prepare as if we're going to be taking a lot of water damage, right? So that would probably make sense in that case to load up on a bunch of water resistances and maybe put on gear that deals primarily earth damage, because that tends to be the most effective against water enemies. Maybe leaving the Canderethop here for Legion to have Fig Elemental Gem Explosions is still not a bad idea, given how that tends to be a really rare element that, in general, I think we'll find that many bosses are weak to it, so we'll leave that on. But other than that, we could say throw on other forms of water resistance. I know we just took off something for Gloria, but she is still above 100% water resistance. And for Meriador, you have already mastered Clarity, so, I suppose that could be a reason to say put on one of those attribute boosting items. However, what with us presumably about to go into a major water elemental fight, then maybe we throw on a Sapphire Bangle instead. And any other sources of water resistance, or might that be okay? Let's take a look at where the party stands from a water resistance standpoint. And everyone is actually just below 100% water resistance, except for Mardek. Mardek is well above, in fact. That's because Mardek is currently using the Trilobite armor and may also be equipping Resist Water. I'd have to double check on that. Remember that these three do have the Resist Water magic reaction active, and therefore, even though Legion has lowest here with just 50% water resistance, is actually completely immune to water spells, assuming we get those reactions. Mardek, let's double check what you have going on there. Do we have water resistance? You have mastered it, but you're not currently using it. So, I think it's you have the Trilobite armor, and then as well as one of those pendants. Yeah, so in truth, you don't really need this. Mardek is also using the Evening Star, which at the moment he has been using for mastering double AP, which he's more than halfway to doing. That's a long-term investment, though, and maybe not something that is absolutely necessary for this upcoming fight, so we, if we really wanted to, could say throw on even more water resistance. So we could look at our item storage and see if there's anything else that comes to mind, but we still have even more Sapphire Bangles, so we could throw on one of those as well. And now Mardek should be at, I'm pretty sure, 200% water resistance, which is the cap. On second thought, let's see if we can load up even more on those water resistances. Say, just for example's sake, let's throw on a Wander Pendant for Legion as well, even in that first slot there, which does of course make it so that Legion will not be able to use the Gem Explosion ability, but maybe we're okay with Legion just using other skills at the moment, so we'll stick with this, and then I believe that means that we will have Mardek at over 100% water resistance, Legion at 100, Meriador will be at 80, and then Gloria will be at slightly below 100. So let's see if we can pick up just a little bit more. I want to deliberately show you what happens when you make a point of putting on as much water resistance as possible, because I think that in many cases that's what you would assume is the correct way to go, right? So let's say put on a Lapis Lily on someone like either Meriador or Legion, or maybe even, I suppose, Gloria, who we were saying earlier, was using this, at least in theory, to work on +1 agility, but like we're saying, for the sake of what we assume is probably just one big fight, maybe not terribly important. It's not like that's going to make a huge difference in terms of mastering that skill more quickly. Probably more important that we stay alive. So we'll throw on this for another 50% water resistance, as well as some other status resistances that could be useful, because we've seen some of these things happen in this water temple. Then the other thing that we could do would be, say, throw on the Night Jacket on someone for an additional 20% water resistance, which I think Meridor might be the only one who's not currently wearing a chest plate with water resistance, at least other people who can. Legion, unfortunately. Sorry, buddy. Nothing you can do. But where does this lead us now is what I'm wondering. At this point, that means that we have Mardek at 200, Legion 100, Meridor 100, and Gloria at 130. And now you might theoretically be able to eke out a little bit more. However, I think this is a good place for us to be right now, because I want to show you what happens if you take this route. So let's save one more time. Now I'm going to show you what awaits us on the other side of this door. And I don't know. Do you guys have any guesses? Okay, well, big dramatic floor, and then this person here who is standing in this room with all the dramatic pillars. I don't know. Yeah, it's the Water Guardian. You! Yes! Intruders! In this temple and stuff! I mean, What brings you to this water temple, home of the water crystal? Are you heroes come to save the world, or villains here to take some of the world's power for your own selfish desires? Whichever is the case, you surely wish to see the crystal. I really do wonder why, but it's not really my place to ask. If you wish to pass, then you must defeat me, the Water Guardian, in fair combat. Allow me to summon my steed, and the battle shall commence. Give this your all. I don't know. Something about this person feels oddly familiar. And so, here we go, in what is an entirely new battle for us against the Water Guardian. Totally haven't seen this person before. It's a Guardian, which I suppose is also a category that is relatively new to us. They have 26 Strength, 22 Vitality, 26 Spirit, and 46 Agility, so understandably went first. Only 10 attack, but 10 defense means that physical attacks may be not quite as effective as, say, magic attacks with 0 magic defense. As we might have expected, 200% water resistance, so they're going to heal a lot to whatever water damage we try to deal to them. 100% fire resistance as well, so no luck with fire skills. Looks like air and particularly earth are the way to go, as we might have expected. Unfortunately, no big weakness, so at one point we were considering using the Canderythopes for big elemental gem explosions from Legion, but looks like maybe not the best idea. Like I said, ultimately didn't go that route, but if that's something you were thinking of doing, then maybe not as great as we might have been anticipated. So, for Meridor, let's use Gasomatic and attack this person on their dramatic sea horse / lobster steed. Okay. It looks pretty awesome, not gonna lie. I wish I had one of those. As for Gloria, we could go with a Razor Leaf for pure damage, yes, but do we want to say set ourselves up for anything like a bark skin to boost our defenses, or even a null water, make it so that we don't take as much damage? One of those might be a decent option, except remember that, of course, we did make a point of loading up on the water resistances, so maybe that's not necessary. And so, for that reason, maybe we do, in fact, go with just pure damage. Now remember, this enemy here, although it looks like 2 people, is actually just 1, except it does have haste, meaning that it will go twice in a row here. So, Mardek will go, then Legion, and then those 2 turns from the Guardian. Mardek, we did see that the Guardian is fairly weak to air, so might be worth doing an air slash. However, is it still worth doing that when, of course, Mardek is still a very strong support character and could perhaps put on something like a shield or a magic shield? Let's give that a shot, I'm thinking, especially for Meridor, who is rather weak compared to everyone else. We did poison it with the Gasomatic last turn, so that is helpful. But of course, for Legion, we did get rid of that Canderythope, and therefore we no longer have a gem with which to use Gem Explosion. The only ability then that Legion could use would be Bubble Breath, which is Water Elemental, and therefore definitely don't want to be doing that. So for that reason, I think we're going just with physical attacks. 200 damage is not great, but now we have Tsunami, which is a huge attack that hits everyone for a bunch of water damage, except we all healed, and actually you saw that Legion learned that ability. Meridor would have gotten silence there, but may in fact have silence resistance. And so we find that actually nobody is damaged right now because everyone just healed to that attack. And so we continue the Gas-O-Matic, I suppose. I missed the reaction, but still 200 damage. Of course, the poison already applied. And so probably stick with the Razor Leaves here. Keep up the damages. That would likely be our primary source of damage, except unless and until we start using air slashes on Mardek, might end up being slightly better. We'll have to wait and see. However, for the moment, we probably still want to load up on those magic shields, and I think that Gloria and Mardek were the ones with the highest water resistance, so for that reason, let's put this on Legion. And then Legion, yes, we do see that you in fact learned Tsunami, which inflicts water damage on all targets. It is one of Legion's most powerful abilities, and for that reason, it is very important that you make a point of having Legion participate in this fight against the Water Guardian, because this is one of the only opponents that you will ever have who uses this ability. That is one thing to note about Legion, is that many of the skills that it learns comes from enemies that you can encounter at any point in time. However, there are some, such as this skill here, that come specifically from bosses, and for that reason, I would highly encourage that you have Legion participate in almost every significant boss fight. So that's one of the reasons why we have Legion participating here, even if at the moment, in terms of magic abilities, Legion doesn't have that much to contribute. More of a long-term investment in Legion's future to be able to use Tsunami against other enemies. So we'll stick to the physical attacks. And the Guardian uses Empty Claw, which was a physical attack, which is concerning, and they continue to try to silence Meridor. It does work this time, meaning Meridor will not be able to use Gas-O-Matic. We could use Meridor's only item and say, use a Mana Berry, which is, well, Meridor's only item, and not terribly relevant at the moment when we don't really have anyone who's in need of MP. Can we still use Repair, even when Meridor is silenced? The answer is yes, however, Legion is on full HP, so probably means that we are waiting for someone else to relieve Meridor of his silence, so I think we more or less just wait here. And then we stick to the Razor Leaves for Gloria, I suppose. Seems like it's working. We'll stick to it. And then Mardek, you could theoretically use an item to say remove that silence. I'm assuming you have a liquid sound. You do. However, sorry Meridor, but it might actually be preferable if, say, you just focused on throwing on physical and magical shields, because that's the primary thing that is of concern right now, especially when we're trying to squeeze this in before, say, the Water Guardian makes its next attack. So again, nothing in the way of mimicry that we're going to want to use with Legion. And here we have Inversion Water, and this is the reason why I put on all the water-resistant items, is to show you that you shouldn't do this. Because that very skill is designed to prevent you from doing what I just showed you. So you'll find that now Mardek got obliterated by that skill, took 2,000 damage. Meridor did also just go down, but that was actually from a subsequent skill. So what Water Inversion does is it actually deals damage based on how much water resistance you have, meaning that it is specifically a counter for doing what I did right there, loading up on all the water resistance you possibly can. Mardek, remember, had the maximum amount of water resistance, 200%. Gloria also had a lot and just barely hang on. We were lucky that she did. As for the others, they took some damage from it, what with their roughly 50 or so % water resistance, so they also didn't look great, and then, of course, the Water Guardian followed up to take out Meridor. So I deliberately did this to show you. Although it may be tempting to load up on the water resistance against the Water Guardian, do not do it. So we can try to wrap this one up here and see if we can still take out the Water Guardian, but I think chances are that with Mardek down, things are going to be pretty difficult from here on out. So deliberately made a point of saving before we went in here, because, well, I was kind of planning on, say, losing this first one. But maybe we can still pull it off. About 7,000 or so HP remaining on the Water Guardian. Probably should, say, use a Phoenix down to try to bring back Mardek. Here's another Tsunami, which is actually welcome because it heals everyone, except the next skill is Bubble, which, well, that's also water, and therefore not actually that much of a problem. Gloria. Okay, see, that's the other thing, is we also didn't necessarily put on Phoenix Downs for this, what we were anticipating to be relatively major fight. So, yeah. Probably means we just stick to the damages. The other thing is, I mean, even if we were able to complete this fight here, of course this is a pretty significant fight that will presumably give us a ton of experience, and characters only gain experience when they are alive, meaning that right now, Meridor and Mardek, neither of them would get any experience from completing this fight, which is not great. So even if we could theoretically pull it off, still wouldn't really recommend it. And you might be asking yourself, well, yeah, this inversion ability, Mega Barrier, okay, Shield and Magic Shield, and then Stone Explosion, actually mixing things up with an Earth skill, but that one looks familiar. We've seen that before. Okay. And Razor Leaf, and it's close to being able to work here, except, like I was saying, I mean, we might really want to, like, not succeed here. But you might have been asking yourself, okay, yeah, so this whole inversion water thing dealt a whole bunch of damage to people, but how? We had a bunch of water resistance. The skill was actually not water elemental, it was Thalma elemental, which is this one over here that, well, no one has any resistance to. It's the one that's actually the opposite of physical, the one that we see listed as the Gem Explosion element, as we were saying a while ago, but actually is not terribly representative of that because Gem Explosion will then take on the element of whatever gem you have in your first inventory spot. So, I suppose we could attack with Legion, but at this point, I'm actually not sure what the most effective way to quote-unquote throw this fight might be, short of, say, just reloading the save file. So, let's just continue with our normal attacks. And of course, we'll be doing less damage now that the Guardian is shielded up. Tsunami does help. However, poison is the primary way we're dealing damage here. In fact, we wouldn't even need to deal any damage at all with Gloria, because on the next turn, with 800 damage from the poison, the Guardian would go down. So, for that reason, I suppose we can do a Razor Leaf here. But before we get too carried away with our soon-to-be victory, I think I'm going to swap over to another round of this fight with everyone up right about now. Okay, so I'm back. Round 2 with the Water Guardian. Starting off with the Tsunami, and this time Legion has relearned that ability, because of course we're starting to do. And again, the Stone Explosion is enough to take out Meridor rather efficiently. Well, we might want to do something about that. Say, bring him back, because he has not yet applied a poison, which would be rather nice. So let's throw a Phoenix down on him. Then Legion, you are next, and I did swap over some of our equipment here. So it is a little bit tricky trying to find what is the correct balance of water resistance, because we did of course see that Water Guardian does use some water elemental skills, so you probably do want to put on at least a little bit, but not enough so that you are getting completely destroyed by the water inversion. So what that means is that you definitely do not want to have 100% water resistance or higher, because I believe that is more or less the threshold where the spell is guaranteed to do 100% damage against you, unless you happen to have other magic defensive reactions that might mitigate the damage. So, for that reason, we have 50% resistance on most characters, along with the water defensive magic reaction, and that might be enough collectively to make it so that, at least for magic spells, water damage is not going to do much to us. Again, Meridor, what with him being fire elemental, maybe a little bit less so in his case. But for Legion and Mardek, 50 resistance apiece. So, I think that should put us in a much better place from that standpoint. And we do have the Gem Explosion ability, Big Elemental, back on Legion, and like we were saying before, in theory, Earth would still be the way to go. However, remember that the effectiveness of that skill is based on also how valuable the gem is, and the Canderito is quite valuable. So in that way, it's doing us some favors in that regard at least. So we could still go with Razor Leaf on Gloria, however, no water is more relevant now than it was previously, because we don't have quite as much in the way of resistances. Remember that, yes, there are some water spells, but there are also some water attacks, and we don't have as much in the way of resistance for those. However, that Tsunami is going to get rid of all those nulls immediately, and then the follow-up skill, well, could be a water attack or a silence. On Legion, however, it does not land, fortunately, Meridor does have time for a Gas-O-Matic now. I missed the reaction, however, ooh, no poison. That was the big thing we were hoping for. Mardek. I think we're working on physical shields this time around, again, because we are definitely more resistant to water magic than we are water attacks. So, we prioritize Meridor. To be honest, you're probably going down if you get hit by just about anything. So I think we put it on Gloria, because she's going to be a great source of damage for us. And Legion, just keep on going with the gem explosions. Make it happen. So Gloria, you could deliberately heal everyone and mostly focusing on Meridor here, because he's in most need. Or you could go for the offense, you could reapply the Null Water. Let's reapply the Null Water. Play it a little bit safe. Wait for Mardek to put on as many shields as possible, and then we'll have stronger defenses. We'll be in a better place to transition more to an offensive playstyle. Again, the Tsunami, though, gets rid of all of our Null Waters, and then the Gem Explosion on Gloria is actually a pretty good fit because, well, Gloria has 70% Earth resistance, so we lucked out there. Gas-O-Matic round 2. Poison, question mark? Yes. We got it this time. So we saw that will deal 800 damage per turn that the Guardian takes, and because the Guardian has haste, that basically means 1,600. And that's not bad. Mardek. Probably want to start putting on those shields now for other people, and Legion, I suppose you're probably next on the list. And Legion, you do go next, so we'll use the Gem Explosion here. And Gloria, I mean, Null Water is maybe not been terribly effective. You do still need to master it, though, so you have done that now. There's at least that. And then this turn, that's what we were trying to know, was the Hydro Claw. Because that one we do not have as much resistance to. Does mean that Gloria does not null that magic ability there. However, between her 50% resistance and the 50% reaction, she takes no damage there. Could use another Gas-O-Matic and just continue to do a little bit of damage here. Still Earth Elemental, so it's not bad. And then, do we finally make a point of healing Meridor or putting on a shield? Or do we say just put one on Mardek instead? Maybe we do that. Meridor has, for the most part, already done his job applying poison. And then Gloria. Now, yeah, I suppose. You can do your Earth heal. Get Meridor back up to full HP. Then it's probably worth throwing on the shield, because remember, Meridor would lose it immediately upon going down. So there is the Hydro Claw. That was the one person who did not have no water on, and bear in mind, Guardian can use other elemental skills. Less common, yes, but we've seen it on a couple of occasions, specifically targeted at Gloria. Gloria, for that reason, is actually in a fair bit of need of a heal herself, and that might be something that is Mardek's duty to do, because she is important to keep up. Gem Explosion again. This has been, other than the poison, our primary source of damage. Gloria, you could probably transition now, though, to going a little bit more offensive with a Razor Leaf. And that is still less damage than the poison, so Meridor, oh, lucky dodge there. Gloria still the target. Water Guardian is not a fan. Yeah, bear in mind that the poison has still been the primary source of our damage, so in that way Meridor has actually somewhat directly/indirectly been our primary source of offense. So I suppose we can still put it on Meridor as well. One of the primary reasons why we redid this fight was, of course, that we could have everyone up and ready to get the experience from it. And Gloria probably still go with the Razor Leaf. Yes, there's something to be said for potentially putting on another null on yourself, or maybe even healing the entire party, but I think we can sneak on by with just a Razor Leaf here. Guardian is Tsunami-ing, which means still no damage for Gloria with those resistances and reactions. Everyone else has the null. Mega Barrier, though, that will put on the physical and magical shield, as we saw previously. So we're going to do less damage now for everything except for the poison, which, again, all the more reason why the poison was so critical to get that early. And Mardek, you could heal Gloria. It's maybe not the worst idea. You could put on magic shields on people, but it seems like most of the magic abilities are either water, in which case we have the resistances, or in some cases even the nulls, or inconsistent enough with other things that they're not a terrible concern. So I think let's play it a little bit safe and heal Gloria. That seems like that might actually be the better defensive route to take. And then Legion has run out of MP. Does not have a lot of MP to start with, because I believe Legion only has 10 Spirit to begin with, which of course also affects how much MP a character has. Gloria does have more, and therefore is at no shortage of MP here. There's the inversion. We were waiting for it. It took a long time for it to happen. But there you see significantly less damage. Not enough to take anyone out in one hit. Except, again, the Water Guardian follows up with a Stone Explosion on Meridor, takes him out. So, well, I suppose Water Guardian is, in fact, very close to going down. So, let's bring Meridor back. And Legion, you won't be able to take it out here with a Gem Explosion, but a little bit of damage. And Gloria, the Water Guardian will go down to the poison on its second turn, even if you don't deal any damage here. So I think what you do is you make a point of healing the party, so that way it's unlikely that Meridor goes down here. That way Meridor will still get the experience, and if he does still go down, then can't say we didn't try. Tsunami should deal 0 damage or close to it. Remember, Meridor has slightly less water resistance. And on the second of the 2 turns, the poison does it. Everyone levels up. That's the reason why we wanted to make sure we had everyone up for the end of this fight. And we get a Water Temple Key, which is a plot item, a Wave Harp, which, of course, with Elwian being the harp character, would seem as though that's probably a new weapon for her, and a Sapphire, too. And we also saw, of course, that Gloria mastered Null Water. Ah!